They call it the white ghost, a hulking predator that stalks seals across miles of black Arctic water. Tonight, we ask the question that haunts the ice. How does it track and kill? An ice giant slips through polar night, following breath and movement for miles. This video dissects that ability. The biology, the violence, the strange brilliance of the polar bear. Our central curiosity. How can a massive mammal, white against darkness, locate seals across endless black water and kill with brutal efficiency? The answer is a web of anatomy, senses, and behavior. Imagine Arctic night so complete the horizon vanishes. In that void moves a creature built to turn silence into strategy. Its name, polar bear, Ursus maritimus, apex in a frozen wasteland. This is not graceful nature footage. This is predation, stripped to mechanics and appetite. The polar bear embodies both beauty and a cold, mechanical hunger shaped by ice and scarcity. We will explore skin and fat, senses and nerves, the slow, patient stalking and sudden violence. Every element answers the same dark question. Why can it hunt seals across black water? Expect anatomy, physiology, and behavior stitched into a single lethal package. Insulating fat, translucent fur, a nose that reads kilometers, and a brain calibrated for endurance and ambush. We will also confront consequences. Mothers starving for cubs, seals hunted relentlessly, an ecosystem tipping as ice melts. The white ghost is both marvel and warning. By the end, you will see how morphology and behavior answer our question, and why the same traits that make it supreme now make it vulnerable to a warmer world. First, the body. To understand the hunter, we must strip away myth and inspect bone, muscle, and fur. Every inch is tuned for the dark and the cold. Polar bears are huge. Adult males can exceed 8 feet standing and weigh over 7 kilograms. They are massive, energy-rich predators designed to travel vast, frozen distances. Under the white coat lies black skin. That dark pigment absorbs sunlight. Above it, dense underfur and guard hairs trap warm air, creating insulation like a living thermal suit. Their fur is not white pigment, but translucent hollow hairs. In the polar night, it becomes a visual cloak, blending shape into ice and haze, a natural stealth technology. A thick blubber layer beneath the skin stores energy and keeps heat. This fat is a reserve for long treks and for surviving months when seals are scarce. Paws the size of dinner plates distribute weight on thin ice and act as paddles in water. Rough pads and long claws grip slippery ice and tear through hides. Powerful jaws and conical carnassials shear blubber and skin. Their bite is not only force, it is designed to access the caloric core of a seal quickly and efficiently. Muscle fiber composition favors endurance and burst. They can plod for hours, then explode into speed when a seal surfaces. That metabolic flexibility is central to hunting across black water. A cardiovascular system copes with cold and exertion. Large hearts and efficient oxygen delivery allow long swims and sudden lunges, often the difference between feast and famine. Their nervous system integrates subtle cues, muffled breathing, ice chatter, faint scent plumes. Neuronal circuits favor patience, timing, and motor precision required for seal hunting. The nose is their trump card. Polar bears can detect seal breathing holes from kilometers away, smelling scatters of air across frozen expanses like a living chemical map. Olfactory receptor density rivals dogs, They track scent trails laid by wind and water, triangulating position even in darkness by the faintest gradients of seal odor. Vision in polar night is adapted for contrast, not color. Their eyes read shapes and motion against dim horizons, detecting the outline of a seal hauled on ice. Hearing picks up subtle ice creaks and underwater movements. Combined with smell and vision, it forms a multisensory net that reveals prey hiding beneath a lethal calm. Whiskers, or vibrissae, sense water currents and breathing puffs. They are short-range instruments that confirm a seal's position once other senses point the way. Sensory inputs converge in the brain into strategies: when to wait, when to stalk, when to swim. The bear's mind is a patient engine, timing violence precisely. Thermoregulation is a balancing act. Insulation keeps core heat, but blood flow adjusts to prevent overheating during runs and to maintain agility in freezing seas. They run on fat. High-calorie seal blubber fuels months of migration and fasting. Metabolic efficiency lets them stretch rare kills into survival for mothers and cubs. Polar bears are oceanic. They swim for hours, propelled by forelimbs, conserving heat while scanning the dark water for disturbances that betray seal movement. On ice, they stalk with a slow, deliberate gait. Their white silhouette melts into flows, enabling close approach before a sudden, catastrophic lunge. Each anatomical trait answers the central topic: tracking seals across black water. Combined, they make scent into satellite guidance, fur into camouflage, and muscle into inevitability. Now, the tactics. Hunting is choreography. Patient, still hunting, careful stalks, underwater ambushes. Patterns honed by millennia of ice and scarcity. Still hunting at breathing holes is iconic. The bear waits, unmoving for hours, until the seal exhales. One explosive burst ends the seal's surface world in seconds. Stalking seals hauled on ice demands stealth. The bear lowers its belly, advances inch by inch, using wind and terrain to hide even the whisper of movement. Attacks are swift and brutal. Powerful front paws, crushing weight, and a bite aimed to sever. The kill is efficient, minimizing energy lost on a single prize. At sea, a bear will follow seal tracks across open water, diving and resurfacing, using scent and sight to pick a vulnerable target in endless blackness. Tracking across miles happens because scent and currents carry information. Bears detect minute molecules and interpret patterns, following invisible trails braided by wind and tide. They use wind like a radio, approaching from downwind to preserve scent, or positioning to intercept drifting odors. It is fieldcraft, learned and instinctive. Polar night favors the hunter. Darkness hides motion. The bear's contrast vision and nose take over, turning black water into a hunting ground of sensory signals. This is persistence hunting on an Arctic scale. Long-distance pursuit of scent and chance, wearing down seals that must surface to breathe, then striking without mercy. They improvise, waiting by ice edges, breaking through thin sheet to surprise seals, flipping ice blocks to expose pups. Not tools in the human sense, but tactical creativity. Polar bears can dive shallowly, using underwater stealth to approach seals at air pockets. The water becomes a silent battlefield, where breath, not sight, betrays prey. Opportunism rules. Carcasses, bird colonies, even human refuse. When seals are scarce, bears broaden diets, showing both adaptability and the desperation of survival. Hunting balances calories in and out. Every stalk, every long swim must be worth more energy than it costs. That calculus shapes where and how they hunt. The translucent fur and low profile create a ghostly silhouette against ice and night. Camouflage is not just color, it is posture, timing, and silence. Experience matters. Bears learn patterns of seal behavior, adjusting tactics seasonally. Mothers teach cubs stealth and patience in a brutal curriculum of survival. They gamble, crossing thin ice, swimming long distances, approaching large seals. The reward is colossal blubber. The risk is drowning or injury in an unforgiving landscape. Hunting changes with seasons. In spring, seal pups and lairs present concentrated opportunity. In winter, tracking breathing holes becomes central to survival. Predation is raw. Seals die quickly or struggle in water. The bear's task is efficient consumption of blubber and organs, biology's most honest transaction with hunger. After a kill, feeding is greedy and pragmatic. Bears consume calorie-rich tissues and sometimes cache parts. Every scrap can sustain months of fasting. As ice retreats, polar bears encounter human settlements more often, attracted by scents and easy calories, increasing conflict and revealing the collapse of their hunting grounds. Polar bears are largely solitary apex predators. Territory is defined by opportunity and ice drift, not strict borders. Loneliness sharpens hunting focus and ruthlessness. Mothers raise cubs alone, teaching them to hunt while fasting through denning months. Maternal devotion is fierce, often at the cost of the mother's own body reserves. Adult males are solitary and competitive. They fight violently over mating opportunities and carcasses. Size and aggression can determine access to food and reproduction. When food is abundant, temporary aggregations form at whale carcasses or ice leads. These gatherings are tense, hierarchical, and can erupt into deadly clashes. Communication is subtle. Body language, huffs, roars, and scent marks. These signals de-escalate encounters or warn of dominance, a fragile language of survival. Fights leave scars. Broken limbs, bite wounds, and punctures are common among adults. Injury reduces hunting efficiency and can spiral into slow starvation. Occasionally, younger bears tolerate each other near rich food sources, a temporary alliance born of convenience, but cooperation rarely replaces competition. Seals and polar bears exist in a predator-prey choreography. Seal behavior has evolved around breathe-and-hide tactics. Bears counter with patience and sensory acuity. Encounters with people are escalating. Bears learn to seek human refuse. Communities must defend themselves. The shifting balance is a grim symptom of environmental change. Solitary, territorial, occasionally social under pressure. Polar bear society is shaped by scarcity. And scarcity breeds both cooperation and brutality when survival demands it. Reproduction is cyclical and brutal. Mating season is short. Pregnancy includes delayed implantation, and denning mothers endure months without food to birth and nurse vulnerable cubs. After mating, the embryo may delay implantation. This gives the female time to build fat reserves before committing to pregnancy. A reproductive gamble linked to food availability. Pregnant females excavate snow dens where they birth and nurse. Inside that hollowed silence, cubs are born blind and fragile, protected from polar night, but isolated from food. Cubs weigh less than 3 kilograms at birth and survive on rich milk. Mothers sacrifice body reserves to feed them, often losing significant mass during lactation. A mother's sacrifice is literal. Months without hunting, fasting in the den. Her survival depends on prior success, making each reproductive attempt a high-stakes gamble. Cubs learn hunting from mothers, stalking, reading ice, timing ambushes. This brutal apprenticeship is the difference between life and early death for inexperienced juveniles. Juveniles face high mortality. Starvation, predation, and accidents thin their ranks. Those that survive carry learned skills and scars into adulthood. Males sometimes commit infanticide, killing cubs to bring females back into estrus. It is a chilling evolutionary strategy that reveals reproductive ruthlessness in the polar world. Cubs wean around 2 years, then disperse. Independence is abrupt. Young bears must master hunting on their own or face starvation in the vast Arctic. In the wild, polar bears live roughly 20 to 25 years. Many die younger due to starvation, injury, or conflict. Life is a fragile ledger of calories gained and lost. Reproduction ties directly to our topic. Only bears with enough reserves can pursue long-distance tracking of seals. Reproductive success depends on the very hunting strategies we detailed. Polar bears are apex predators. Their feeding patterns regulate seal numbers, redistribute nutrients, and influence the behavior of marine mammals across the Arctic seascape. When bears kill seals, carcasses fertilize shorelines and feed scavengers. They transfer ocean energy to tundra, linking distant ecosystems through each brutal meal. Bear populations fluctuate with sea ice and seal abundance. When ice diminishes, hunting success plummets, reproduction falters, and populations can collapse in localized regions. Their ability to track seals across open water is an ecological keystone. It stabilizes predator-prey dynamics and maintains the Arctic's fragile energy balance. Climate change is rewriting the script. Shrinking sea ice strips bears of hunting platforms, forcing longer swims, fewer kills, and a desperate expansion into human territories. Loss of ice leads to weight loss and reduced reproductive success. Mothers emerge from denning weaker, cub survival drops, and starvation becomes an increasingly common fate. With less stable ice, tracking seals across miles of black water becomes harder and riskier. Bears must swim farther, use less efficient tactics, and expend precious calories. More encounters with humans lead to lethal management, relocation, or bears feeding on garbage. These changes ripple through communities and ecosystems, altering the bear's role. Pollutants accumulate in blubber and immune systems weaken. New diseases and contaminants add invisible pressure, compounding the physical challenges of a warming Arctic. Polar bears are listed as vulnerable in many regions. Conservation hinges on preserving sea ice and reducing greenhouse gases, an uneasy alignment of science and politics. If polar bears decline, seal populations and scavenger dynamics will shift, ripple effects altering fish stocks, bird colonies, and even plant communities along Arctic coasts. Our choices impact this predator's fate. Industrial emissions, shipping routes, and resource extraction slice the ice and send hungry bears into new conflicts with humanity. Communities and scientists deploy deterrence, preserves, and monitoring. But long-term survival requires systemic change, cooler oceans and stable ice, conditions beyond local fixes. The polar bear's mastery of tracking seals across black water is an ecological keystone under threat. Protecting that ability protects an entire Arctic network of life. Watching a bear hunt feels primal. We are drawn to its rawness, but we must ask, when we drive the ice away, who bears the moral cost of our choices? These animals are not villains. They are victims of a changing planet. Their brutality is survival, not malice. Our debate should be about responsibility, not spectacle. The white ghost forces a grim mirror, nature's indifference and our complicity. We romanticize power, yet we dismantle the environment that permits it to exist. Empathy for apex predators is complicated. We recoil from violence, but feel awe for their resilience. This tension should drive conservation, not voyeurism. If preserving the polar bear's hunting ground matters to you, the solution begins with emissions, protection of marine corridors, and respect for indigenous stewardship of the ice. Recap: anatomy gives scent and stealth. Physiology grants endurance. Behavior translates those gifts into ruthless hunting. Together, they explain how a bear tracks seals across black water. Our question resolved: a union of adaptations, olfaction, camouflage, locomotion, and patience allows Ursus maritimus to navigate dark seas and find seals where others cannot. Science shows these traits evolved under conditions now eroding. The very features that made the polar bear formidable are now fragile in a warming world. Behavior adapts slowly. When ice disappears faster than learning can compensate, hunger, longer swims, and risky encounters become the new normal for the white ghost. The collapse of polar hunting patterns would reshape Arctic ecology. What we lose is not just an animal, but a complex set of interactions written on the ice. The polar bear is both terror and testament, a creature sculpted by ice, tracking breath across black water with relentless skill. Its fate is a measure of ours. We watched anatomy become strategy, and strategy become survival. Now we must decide if we will let this hunter persist or watch it fade as the ice recedes. Small actions add up. Support science, reduce carbon footprints, listen to Arctic communities. The white ghost's future depends on choices made far from the polar night. Picture the bear alone on a fractured floe, nose lifted to the wind, following a scent into endless dark. That image is beauty and warning in one. The white ghost hunts because it must. We watched how it tracks seals across black Arctic water and glimpsed the fragile machinery behind that power. Remember what we risk losing.